So what's like, I guess, the overarching thing that justifies putting yourself in these dangerous situations to educate humans?
I think the ends at the education. If people can learn from some of the crazy things we do, we were just talking the other day. We had a show on Travel Channel. It was 3 seasons. We traveled around the Caribbean looking for pirate treasure. But during that, that's kind of how we got the audiences in, right? Let's go look for treasure in the Caribbean.
Sounds fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll watch that. But really, we also talked about history. Philippe was a history major at university. So we talked about history. We talked about, old world versus new. We talked about shipping. We talked about wooden boats and how you probably wouldn't want to go across an ocean in one of those.
Yeah.
But also invasive species, plastic pollution, hurricane damage, and even climate change. And honestly, I will say, ships don't tend to sink off the beautiful beaches where everybody's like laying out in their bikinis having a nice relaxing day. They sink on rocky coral reefs where there's awful wind, where there's all these things. So
Currents and
so during the course of filming, they were honestly, and I'm so sorry to say this because I don't think I've ever told my parents, but there were times when Philippe and I were like, oh my gosh, like you almost got swept out to sea twice, like really almost got swept out to sea twice.
We'd be
got
diving in
stuck in a
places where the
cave.
current or the swell, will go back and forth kind of near coastal areas. And it's going back and forth like 6 feet. So it's throwing you 6 feet.
One of our
Over
dive
rubble,
masters
and
almost
there's
broke his
overhanging
back.
rocks.
Wow.
You have visibility that can be a couple feet. And you're surrounded by like metal and all sorts of different things, like hazardous materials. And you're just reaching around because you can't see anything. And Ashton got staph infections because we'd be in ports that are very dirty and gross.
Almost got hit on the head by a boat.
Got stuck in a cave at one point.
Underwater.
Which is not
So
good,
it's-
as you can imagine.
But it was those things where we kind of knew. I mean, if it was really, really, really dangerous, we wouldn't do it because we're like, look, there's so many more things we can do
There's
with
a
our lives.
threshold that
But
you start to be
that's
like,
certainly dangerous enough to the
But-
point where you have to constantly remind yourself that you're doing it for a reason.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we're like, if this is going to get people to tune in and maybe even just understand how currents work or understand how powerful wave power is, then it's worth it. So I think for us, we always kind of our umbrella on all of our projects is, can we teach people? And can we reach a group of people that maybe wouldn't sit down and watch something like about ocean health, but they might sit down and watch a show about pirates.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to kind of like diversify the audience for the ocean in general.
Yeah, it's genius. That's great.